Most people walk through life untouched by the energies around them, but you feel everything. The room changes and your chest tightens. Someone smiles and you sense the sadness behind their teeth. You are what the world calls sensitive, but what I saw in you is far more complex. You are unconsciously bound to the emotions of others. This is not a coincidence. It is a psychological inheritance, and unless you understand what dwells in your unconscious, this gift will turn into a curse. You sit before me now, not merely to hear words, but to awaken. You think yourself fragmented, unsure of why you carry such exquisite pain, the pain of feeling too much. You sense too deeply, you grieve too easily. You absorb others' turmoil like a sponge cast into the dark seas of the world's unconscious. And this has led you to believe, as many do, that something is wrong with you. But I say nothing is wrong with you. Instead, you are standing at the crossroads of a forgotten truth, a truth obscured by modernity, buried beneath ego, and feared by the collective. You see, the highly sensitive person, the HSP, is not a clinical designation, but an archetypal identity that appears across cultures and myths, cloaked in many names: the oracle, the shaman, the empath, the seer. And yet in modern society, such individuals are dismissed as fragile, delicate, or neurotic. But they are neither fragile nor broken. They are merely uncooked by society's fire, unshielded by the armor of repression, still tethered to the deep feminine, the chaotic womb of psyche, where symbols, dreams, and the unconscious speak in riddles and rhythms. The unconscious curse, then, is not sensitivity itself, but the repression of it, the denial of its purpose. For when you do not understand your depth, your gift becomes your wound. And worse, you become possessed by it. The HSP walks through the world like a raw nerve, yet without the tools to distinguish what is theirs and what is not. So become a vessel for the world's unprocessed shadows. This is the true curse, not merely to feel deeply, but to feel without structure, without language, without sacred context. This curse is unconscious because it is inherited both biologically and psychically. The child who was too intuitive, too attuned, often learned to dim their light, to preserve peace in a chaotic home. They became emotional translators, interpreting every unspoken sigh, every cold silence, every volatile shift in tone. This vigilance was their safety, but what begins as adaptation becomes identity. And that identity calcifies into a prison, forged in silence, misunderstood even by the self. To you, the world has always been too loud, but more than the decibels of sound, it is the psychic noise that haunts you. Crowded rooms do not overwhelm you because of the people they overwhelm, because of the invisible fields that ripple through others. You enter a space and feel anger before it is spoken. You sense sadness hidden behind smiles. You feel something rising in your chest, but it is not yours. You carry ancestral grief in your body. You absorb collective fear. You are porous, and yet you do not know how to seal the door. Do you understand what this means? You are not weak, you are wide open. But openness without boundaries is vulnerability, weaponized. And in our world, where shadow is disowned and the unconscious is feared, this openness becomes punishment. Not by the universe, but by the egos of others, by their projections. For make no mistake, an HSP does not merely sense emotion, they invite the shadow of others to emerge. You become a mirror, not because you try to, but because your presence destabilizes the masks of those around you. This is a sacred power, but to those unprepared to face their own darkness, you become a threat. And so they label you dramatic, too much, unstable, and perhaps the most dangerous of all overthinker. This word is the ego's spell designed to gaslight the intuitive mind, to amputate the mystical faculty of deep reflection. You are not overthinking, you are receiving, you are translating the whisperings of the psyche into waking thought, but without a container for these messages. The psyche becomes flooded, not because it is broken, but because no one ever taught you how to build the dam. Let me tell you something. Few dare to say aloud, the HSP is initiate material. In the old temples, those who could feel the energies of others were trained, not medicated, not silenced, not mocked. They were guided into mystery schools, taught to discern between inner voice and outer influence, between projection and perception. They were taught the ancient art of differentiation, the psychic ability to say, this is mine. This is not, but in a world that has lost its soul, these initiations are no longer offered. And so the sensitive walk, the earth alone, longing for a mentor, a symbol, a path. This is why dreams are vital. For the unconscious speaks in symbols. And the dreams of the sensitive are not ordinary. Have you dreamed of floods of animals chasing you, of children lost in unfamiliar cities? These are not random. The flood is the psyche overwhelmed. The chasing animal is your own instinctual self-demanding integration. The lost child is your innocence, abandoned in the name of social adaptation. Dreams do not lie. They are the royal road to the unconscious. And for the HSP, they are often the only uncorrupted mirror. And what would I, Carl Jung, say to you? The wounded sensitive, I would not tell you to harden. I would not tell you to numb. I would not tell you to detach. I would tell you to descend. Go into your body. Go into the images that haunt you. Go into the moments when you first learned it was dangerous to feel. Trace the root of the belief that says, I must carry everything or I will be abandoned. That belief is the curse, and it is not yours. It is a shadow handed down, mother to daughter, father to son, generation upon generation. The unconscious curse of the HSP is that you were tasked with feeling what others refuse to feel. You became a vessel for generational pain, but you are not doomed to carry it forever. What is felt can be transformed. What is seen can be healed, but you must become more than sensitive. You must become conscious of your sensitivity. You must turn your wound into a mirror, not for others to see themselves, but for you to see the divine pattern emerging through your very being. You are not here to disappear into others. You are here to reclaim your center, To feel, yes, but also to anchor, to witness without drowning, to hold space, not be swallowed by it. And this begins with knowing your own shadow, because the truth, and it may sting, is that even the sensitive have shadows, especially the sensitive. For every wound of rejection, there is often a hidden arrogance. I feel more, therefore I am more. You must watch this. Sensitivity does not confer superiority. It confers responsibility. The responsibility to transmute what you receive, not to project it outward as righteousness or martyrdom. Let us pause here, not to end, but to breathe. To allow this first layer to sink into your bones. What has been awakened in you already is not knowledge, but memory. You have always known these things. But now they are finding language, and in language there is power. Power not to escape who you are, but to become who you were always meant to be. You must understand that your curse is not in what you feel, but in what remains unfelt yet absorbed. The psychic sponge, which so many of you have become, is not the result of divine punishment, but of an ego that has yet to individuate. You have become so attuned to the collective pain that your own voice, your own longing, your own will has been buried beneath layers of psychic sediment. It is as though your soul speaks, but the sound is muffled beneath the echoes of others. This is not compassion, this is confusion. And what is confusion if not a signal that the self is being eclipsed? That is the root of your suffering. Not sensitivity, but disorientation. You do not know where you end, and they begin. You take on burdens that do not belong to you, because you believe, perhaps unconsciously, that if you do not carry them, no one will. This belief is ancient. It stems from a time when the child looked into the eyes of a dysregulated parent and said, "Let me become your peace. Let me become your containment. Let me become the adult you never met." And so began the silent vow. I will feel everything so that others don't have to. But hear me now. That vow must be broken. It was noble. It was adaptive. It may have saved your life, but now it is your spiritual imprisonment. The unconscious curse of the HSP is that your nervous system became the repository of collective anxiety. You stopped being a sovereign being and became an unconscious priest or priestess of unresolved karma. And yet, this too can be redeemed, for within this pain lies a sacred function. What the alchemists called prima materia, the raw, blackened matter that can be transformed into gold, but you must do something that feels almost blasphemous to your current identity. You must stop over-identifying with the suffering of others. This does not mean closing your heart. This means discriminating with soul. Not all pain is your invitation. Not every emotion that reaches you is a calling. Some are simply passing ghosts. Some are projections looking for a host. Some are ancestral echoes trying to enter through any porous soul. You are not required to welcome every visitor into your psychic temple. Let me say it more plainly. Sensitivity without discernment becomes possession. And that is what I see in many of you. You are not merely sensitive. You are psychically possessed by the energies of others. This is not pathology. This is mysticism untrained. You need initiation, but in a world without temples, you must become the temple yourself. And temples have thresholds. They have sacred guardians. They have rituals of entry. You must cultivate these within. If you are to break the unconscious curse, you must return to the dream. Not the dream you chase at night, hoping for pleasure or escape, but the dream that reveals, that disorients, that disturbs. The dream that shows you drowning in someone else's ocean, that shows you naked in a crowd, that shows you in a house with too many doors open. Do you not see the dream is your soul's metaphor? The ocean is not just water, it is feeling without boundaries. The crowd is not just people, it is the invasive chorus of unspoken projections. The house is not just a home, it is you, and the doors have been left open for too long. And what happens when a house has no boundaries? Anything can enter. Joy, yes, but also despair, hunger, rage, spirit. Trauma, not your own. Your gift is openness, but your task is containment. This is where shadow work begins. You must confront the secret part of you that loves to be needed. That believes being the emotional caretaker makes you valuable, that secretly fears that without this suffering, you will be irrelevant. That is a shadow of the sensitive, the martyr complex, the savior archetype run amok. You are not here to save anyone. You are here to return to yourself, to know your energy so intimately that when something foreign enters, your entire being resonates with an inner no. That no is not aggression, it is clarity. And clarity is compassion's highest form. But the sensitive often resists clarity because clarity forces choice, and choice demands individuation. It is easier in a perverse way to remain overwhelmed, because to rise out of that overwhelm would require you to claim your own power. And power for the HSP is a terrifying thing, because deep down, many of you have equated power with harm. You saw power used to silence, to shame, to destroy. And so you chose surrender instead. But true power is not domination. True power is presence, a grounded center that does not collapse under the emotions of others, a center that says, I feel you, but I am not you. That is what individuation demands, not the elimination of empathy, but the integration of empathy with self. You are not just a mirror, you are a soul with shape, with form, with will. The time has come to shape your empathy, not drown in it. And now, let me take you deeper. There is an ancient archetype buried in your unconscious, the wounded healer, known in myth as Chiron, in alchemy as Mercurius, and in dreams as the limping figure who guides others across thresholds he cannot cross himself. You have met this figure sometimes in your dreamscape, sometimes in waking life, in the therapists, the shamans, the broken-hearted teachers. You carry this archetype too. The healer whose own wounds became the gateway to wisdom. But beware for the wounded healer. If unconscious, becomes a wounded enabler. They keep themselves broken so others can rely on them. They reject healing because their identity is built upon being in pain. You must examine your relationship to healing. Do you truly seek transformation, Or do you cling to pain because it has made you special? This is not judgment, this is liberation. There is no virtue in staying hurt. The world needs healed sensitives, not just broken empathic martyrs. And healing for the HSP must occur at all levels, emotional, psychic, symbolic. You must heal your boundaries. Your ability to say no, your relationship to guilt, your attachment to being seen as good. But most of all, you must heal your fear of becoming powerful. Because the curse has convinced you that if you grow strong, you will lose your gift. But the truth is the opposite. If you do not grow strong, your gift will consume you. You need not reject the world to reclaim yourself, but you must dismantle the false roles you have been playing within it. You must step out of the drama triangle: rescuer, victim, perpetrator, and return to your soul's center. That place within where you are neither mirror nor martyr, but mystic. Let this land in your bones. Let it stir your dreams tonight. Let the figures you meet in the night guide you toward the part of you that remembers. For beneath the overwhelm, beneath the guilt, beneath the ancestral contracts, you are sovereign, and it is time to awaken from the unconscious spell. When the unconscious remains unintegrated, it does not lie dormant, it becomes fate, and that is what we must confront now. The unexamined destiny of the highly sensitive person who refuses to descend into themselves. For those who do not make their sensitivity conscious, life begins to shape itself around their avoidance. Relationships become arenas of psychic bleeding. Careers become tombs for unexpressed creativity. The body becomes a battleground for repressed energy manifesting in autoimmune reactions. Chronic fatigue and mysterious illnesses that no doctor can diagnose because the wound is not of flesh, but of soul. You cannot outthink the unconscious. You cannot manage it with self-help slogans or quick-fix remedies. You must meet it in its language, which is not logic, but symbol. The psyche is not a machine, it is a living myth. And if you are to liberate yourself from this so-called curse, you must begin to read the myths you are unconsciously living out. Ask yourself, what myths have I been inhabiting without knowing it? Have I been psyche? Searching for Eros through endless trials of abandonment and longing, have I been Cassandra? Gifted with foresight, but cursed to never be believed, or have I been Hestia, tending the inner flame alone in silence, while the world forgets my sacred hearth? These myths are not distant stories. They are living archetypes, active within your very selves. To bring them to consciousness is to reclaim authorship of your life. I have seen it in countless patients. The HSP who comes to me with trembling voice, convinced they are ill, when in truth they are simply haunted by unlived lives. The artist who never paints because her family taught her that expression is vanity. The intuitive child grown into an adult who distrusts every insight because it does not fit the metrics of reason. The dreamer who has stopped dreaming, not because the dream stopped, but because they became too painful to remember. What a tragedy when the soul speaks and no one listens. And so I ask you now, what is the story your soul has been trying to tell you. Beneath all this sensitivity, what images return again and again in your meditations, in your memories, in the quiet moments before sleep? These are not accidents. These are the symbols of your individuation path. To walk this path is not to abandon your sensitivity, it is to give it shape. It is to build an inner sanctuary, a sacred geometry around your nervous system, so that you no longer leak energy into every sorrow that passes by. Do not mistake this for detachment. It is the highest form of participation. You are no longer a sponge, you are an alchemist. You no longer drown. You walk upon the waters of the unconscious, feet grounded in knowing. But first, you must return to the place of your original abandonment, not by others, but by yourself. That moment in childhood, when you learned it was dangerous to be seen, the time you were punished for crying too hard, laughing too loudly, knowing too much. That is where the fracture began. That is where the ego took over and said, to survive, I must suppress. And so you did. You became invisible, adaptable, intuitive. You became what others needed. And in doing so, you left yourself behind. Now, the journey is one of return. It is not glamorous. It is not linear. It is not always kind. The unconscious does not speak in the language of politeness. It speaks in raw image. It sends you nightmares, not to torture you, but to wake you. It whispers through synchronicity. It moves through illness. It erupts through emotion. The HSP must stop pathologizing these events. You are not broken. You are being initiated. The symptoms are sacred messengers. If you chase them away, you miss the message. So I ask you again, can you sit with your sensitivity without trying to fix it? Can you enter its temple? Not as a victim, but as a devotee. Can you allow the emotion to rise like a tide? And instead of clinging to the shore of reason, surrender to the depths. Because here is the paradox: the more you resist your sensitivity, the more overwhelming it becomes. But when you turn toward it, when you give it ritual, container, myth, it begins to transform. What was once a curse becomes a compass. What once drowned you becomes your source of orientation. But only if you are willing to step beyond the narratives others have written for you. You are not here to be understood by everyone. That is not your task. You are not here to fit into the world. You are here to bring the world back into feeling, into soul, into depth. But you cannot do this if you are constantly apologizing for your nature. Your tears are sacred. Your silence is sacred. Your knowing, the kind that cannot be proven, is sacred. But first, it must be sacred to you. Others may not understand why you must retreat, why crowds exhaust you, why small talk feels like spiritual death. They may mock your rituals, your symbols, your dreams. Let them. Their laughter is the echo of their own disconnection. Your task is not to convert them. Your task is to stay true to your own inner unfolding. And I would remind you, loneliness is often the first sign of awakening. Not because you are unworthy of connection, but because your soul no longer wishes to participate in what is inauthentic. The HSP must go through a period of psychic solitude, the symbolic wilderness, where all the false identities begin to fall away. This is the night sea journey, the descent into the belly of the whale. It is there, in the darkness, that you meet your true self, not the self that was curated for approval, but the self that has always been waiting. And when you emerge, you do not return to the world unchanged. You bring with you something rare, presence, not performance, not mimicry, but presence, the ability to sit with another human being in truth. And that is the balm this world desperately needs. So I ask you, not as a theorist, but as one who has sat in the trenches of psyche, are you willing to stop running from your own soul? Are you willing to step off the stage of emotional caretaking and become the author of your life? Are you willing to lose the love that only exists when you are betraying yourself? Because on the other side of this loss is freedom. And on the other side of freedom is true belonging, the kind of connection that does not require self-erasure, the kind that sees you not as a mirror, but as a mystery, not as a resource, but as a revelation. This is the path of the integrated sensitive, the mythic empath, the conscious seer. It is not easy, but it is holy. Let me now speak to you as plainly as the soul will allow. The world you were born into was not made for your sensitivity. It was crafted for efficiency. It was a spectacle, control. But the world that longs to be born through you, that is something altogether different. That world is ancient. That world is symbolic. That world is alive with meaning. And it trembles beneath the surface of your quietest emotions. What you have called a burden is in truth your bridge. The tears you suppress are not weakness, they are portals. Each one a baptism, a sacred return to what the modern psyche has forgotten. You were never meant to carry the emotions of others instead of them, but to awaken something within them. You were never meant to become a psychic landfill for the unprocessed shadows of the world. That is not your calling. Your calling is to be a threshold walker, one who moves between realms of visible and invisible, carrying wisdom from dream into matter, from archetype into action. But to do that, you must relinquish the identity of the overwhelmed. You must become intimate with your own power. You must develop what I call the symbolic spine, that inner axis mundi around which all energies may move, but which cannot be moved. This spine is not built from willpower nor intellect. It is built from deep inner work, from facing your shame, your guilt, your rage, your loneliness, without collapsing, without blaming, without turning it outward or inward in the form of projection or self-hate. You hold it, you witness it. You say, I see you, you are mine. And still, I remain. This is the work of the inner alchemist, and it is slow. Do not rush it. Do not ask the seed to bloom before its season. The HSP who attempts to heal through speed is merely trying to bypass the intimacy required. You are not here to heal quickly. You are here to heal fully. And that requires you to be with your sensitivity in the silence of your own cave, until its language becomes your mother tongue. Some of you will resist this. You will say, but Jung, it hurts too much. And I will say, it is not the sensitivity that hurts, it is the abandonment of the self in the face of that sensitivity. Pain is not the enemy. It is the refusal to feel it consciously that birth, suffering, the wound, when faced with love, does not deepen. It begins to reveal its image And all true healing is the transformation of pain into image, and image into meaning. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat with your sensitivity, not as a liability, but as a guest of honor? When did you last allow your feelings to speak not about others, but about you? Because while you may feel the world's sorrow, your sorrow still remains unspoken. Hidden beneath all your attunement to others is a small voice, your own waiting to be heard. Hear it now. Let it rise. Let it break you open. Let it name the longing to be seen, not just as a healer, but as human, as fallible, as angry, as unfinished, because wholeness does not come from purity. It comes from integration, the integration of light and shadow, the union of inner child and inner elder, the wedding of the intuitive and the embodied. You must stop fragmenting yourself to be palatable to others. You must stop dressing your pain in poetry to avoid its truth. You must finally be real. And in being real, you begin to emit something extraordinary frequency. You no longer seek approval for your energy. Speaks a language more ancient than words. You no longer beg to be loved, for you have become the vessel of love itself. Not sentimental love, but the fierce, rooted, a holy love of one who has walked through fire and did not disown their soul. Others will feel this shift. You will no longer be the one who absorbs their chaos. You will be the one who reflects it back to them, not as judgment, but as mirror. They may run from you. They may misunderstand. Let them. Their reaction is not your responsibility. What matters is this: you are no longer betraying yourself for comfort. You are no longer abandoning your center for connection. And from this place of radical self-containment, you begin to magnetize those who are doing the same. This is the sacred circle. Not of trauma bonding, but of individuated kinship. You will know them when you meet them. They will not need you to save them. They will not drain you. They will not worship your wounds or flee from your fire. They will meet you in the soul, and together you will walk as mystics in a world starving for meaning. Let us now descend one final time, not downward, but inward. Return to the dreamscape. See yourself in that dream, the one you have had many times lost in a forest, chased by something unseen. But now, face the figure, see its eyes. It is not a monster. It is not death. It is you, the part you exiled long ago, the part who felt too much, the part who knew too much, the part who was told, you are too intense. Embrace that figure now. Do not banish it again. Let it merge into your chest. Let it breathe. Let it grieve. Let it bless you. Because only in reuniting with this shadow can you truly be free. And freedom is what the HSP longs for. Not freedom from feeling, but freedom within feeling. The ability to feel everything and not become undone. The ability to walk through chaos and remain centered. The ability to love without losing yourself. This is not only possible, it is your destiny. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a soul to be remembered. So go now, not outward, but inward. Seek the temple within, build the spine, meet the shadow, honor the image, reclaim the myth. And when the world asks you who you are, do not shrink, do not explain. Simply stand in silence and let your presence speak. For the healed sensitive is not loud, but they are unmistakable. And to meet one is to remember something in yourself long buried. That is your task. That is your gift. That is the end of the curse. And the beginning of your becoming